That night, I stood in the reception hall, holding my own nameplate while staring at the empty space where my chair should have been. They thought I'd stay silent like always, but tonight, I brought an entire row of chairs with me. My siblings laughed, Mother pretended not to notice, and my cousin dropped the line, "She doesn't belong here." I didn't argue. I set a trap with perfect etiquette and they walked right into it. If you've ever been pushed to the margins by your own family, don't look away. My night of revenge ended with an engraved chair, a public invitation, and a door closing at exactly the right moment. My name is Elena Brooks, and I've spent 34 years watching my family arrange people like furniture. Not metaphorically, literally. Every gathering, every holiday, every reunion becomes a choreographed seating chart where your chair determines your worth. The closer to the main table, the more you matter. The farther away, well, you get the picture. At Novella Bioinstruments, where I work as quality operations manager, I catch defects before they become disasters. I map processes, identify weak points, eliminate redundancies. It's a skill that bleeds into everything I observe, including the way my family operates their silent caste system through dining room politics. Growing up in the Brooks household meant understanding the unspoken rules. Dad Peter Brooks sits at the head, naturally. Mom Marjorie to his right, always. The golden children, my older brother Marcus and younger sister Diana, flank them like bookends. Extended family fills in according to their current favor rating. And me, I learned early that my seat migrated depending on who else showed up. Your chair can go anywhere, Elena, Dad once said during Thanksgiving prep, moving my place card to make room for his golf buddy's family. He said it like flexibility was my superpower. You're so accommodating. Accommodating. That word followed me through decades of family events. When Cousin Rachel got engaged, my seat shifted to accommodate her fiancé's parents. When Uncle Gerald brought his new girlfriend to Christmas, I ate standing at the kitchen counter because we ran out of room. When Grandpa's 80th birthday filled the country club banquet hall, I found myself at the children's table at 29 years old because someone needs to watch the kids. Each time, Mom would pat my shoulder with her manicured hand. You understand, don't you, sweetheart? You're so good at making things work. Making things work. That's what the reliable one does. The one who doesn't complain when her achievements get glossed over at family announcements. The one who brings homemade desserts that everyone praises but no one remembers she made. The one whose promotion to management gets a polite nod while Cousin Tessa's new Instagram follower milestone gets a toast. The pattern was so consistent it could have been written into an operations manual. Step 1, plan event. Step 2, count seats. Step 3, determine who matters most right now. Step 4, move Elena accordingly. Step 5, count on Elena to smile and adapt. I documented it all in my head like quality control reports. The 4th of July when my seat disappeared entirely because Mom miscounted. The Easter brunch where I arrived to find no place card with my name. Oh, honey, we thought you were working. The anniversary party where Dad introduced everyone at our table except me, then caught himself with, "Oh, and Elena's here too. Somewhere. Somewhere. Always somewhere. Never a fixed point. A floating variable in the family equation, added or subtracted based on the day's social mathematics. Noah thinks I should have cut them off years ago." "So, they treat you like you're optional," he said after last year's Labor Day fiasco, where I spent 3 hours helping set up decorations only to be asked to give up my seat when Mom's book club friend dropped by. But here's what outsiders don't understand when you're raised in a system, even a broken one. Leaving feels like admitting you never belonged in the first place. So you stay, you adapt. You tell yourself that family is complicated, that love doesn't always look like respect, that maybe next time will be different. The universe has a dark sense of humor, though. All those years of being moved around, shifted like a chess piece across their social board, taught me something valuable. I learned to see the whole game, every power play, every subtle manipulation, every carefully orchestrated arrangement designed to remind people of their place. At work, this makes me exceptional. I can spot a process failure 3 steps before it happens. I can predict where systems will break down, where human error creeps in, where quality gets compromised. I document everything, create redundancies, build in fail-safes. At home, it made me invisible. The Brooks family's quality control system had identified me as a non-critical component, useful but not essential, present but not permanent. 2 weeks ago, Mom called about the annual Brooks family reunion. "We've rented the Maple Row Lodge," she chirped. "The whole grand ballroom. It'll be spectacular." "Sounds nice," I said, already calculating whether I'd have a seat or be stationed near the coffee urns. "You'll come early to help set up, won't you? You're so good at making everything perfect." Perfect for everyone else? Maybe. But as I hung up, something shifted. 34 years of accommodation had left me with a PhD in their manipulation tactics and 0 patience left for the curriculum. This time would be different. This time, I wouldn't just document the problem. I'd solve it. The Maple Row Lodge glowed amber against the October evening, its windows throwing rectangles of warm light onto the parking lot. I could hear the quartet tuning up inside. Mom had insisted on live music. Of course. "It adds class," she'd said, as if the Brooks family needed help looking important. I smoothed my dress, the navy one that Noah said made me look like I ran a Fortune 500 company, and grabbed my clutch. Inside, the nameplate for Elena Brooks waited in my pocket, the one I'd had made after Mom forgot to order mine. Again, the grand ballroom hummed with that particular frequency of family gatherings, champagne flutes singing against each other, heels clicking on marble, and underneath it all, the steady bass note of performed happiness. Autumn centerpieces sprouted from every table, orange roses and burgundy dahlias that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. "Elena." Mom materialized in seafoam green silk, air kissing my cheek. "You're late." 7:45 wasn't late for an 8 o'clock event, but I didn't correct her. "The tables look beautiful." "Don't they? Tessa helped choose the flowers?" She steered me through the crowd, past cousins and aunts and family friends whose names I'd memorized but who never quite remembered mine. "Now, let me show you where—" Oh. We'd reached the main family table, a masterpiece of strategic placement, Peter at the head, Marjorie's spot to his right, Marcus and his wife, Diana and her boyfriend, Aunt Catherine, Uncle Gerald, and of course, Tessa, positioned perfectly to hold court. 8 chairs, 9 immediate family members if you counted me. "Where's my seat?" I kept my voice level, professional, the same tone I used when discovering a critical error in production reports. Mom's hand fluttered to her pearls. "Oh, honey, there must be. Let me check with the venue." But I already saw the truth written in the careful spacing between place settings. This was no mistake. Every detail had been orchestrated, from the precisely folded napkins to the gap where my chair should have been. "It's fine," Tessa said, appearing at Mom's elbow like a bad penny. 28 years old and still acting like high school student council gave her lifetime authority. "Elena can sit at the overflow table with the Parkinsons." Right. Aunt Marge, overflow table, like I was excess inventory. "We had to make room," Mom said, not meeting my eyes. "Tessa's boyfriend is coming, you know, the investment banker, and the tables only fit 8. "The tables," I repeated slowly, "only fit 8. Behind us, the quartet launched into something baroque and cheerful. Other guests were finding their seats, exclaiming over the arrangements, pouring wine. The extended family table was full. Cousins twice removed had places, but not me. "She doesn't belong at the main table anyway," Tessa said, loud enough for the nearest cluster of relatives to hear. "I mean, what would she even contribute to the conversation quality control?" She laughed, that tinkling sound she'd perfected at her sorority. "Besides, it's not like she's bringing anyone important." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Around us, conversations stuttered. Cousin Jeffrey snickered into his whiskey. Aunt Diane suddenly found her phone fascinating. Marcus glanced over, then away. The coward. "You know what?" I reached into my clutch and pulled out my nameplate, setting it on the empty space where my chair should have been. You're right, Tessa. I don't belong here. Mom's relief was visible. Oh, Elena, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being accurate. I studied the scene like I would a failed production line. Every face, every reaction, every carefully maintained silence. You deliberately removed my chair to make room for someone you deem more valuable. That's not drama. That's data. The quartet played on, but our corner of the ballroom had gone still. Tessa's smile hardened. God, you always have to make everything about you. No, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. That's actually the opposite of what I do. What I do is step aside, stay quiet, make it easy for everyone else to dismiss me. But tonight, I picked up my nameplate, slipped it back into my purse. Tonight, I'm going to stop making it easy. Dad appeared then, late as always to emotional scenes. What's going on here? Elena's upset about the seating, Mom stage whispered, as if I wasn't standing right there. There's the overflow, he started. Yes, I heard. Overflow. Excess. Redundant. I looked at each of them in turn, memorizing their expressions. 34 years of being the variable you can always solve for later. But here's what you didn't account for. I've been taking notes. I turned and walked toward the exit, steady in my heels despite the marble floor. Behind me, Tessa called out. Where are you going to sulk? I stopped at the doorway, looking back at the glittering scene. My family clustered around their table for 8, the empty space already closing like water. No, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I'm going to solve a quality control problem. The system's been broken for years. Time someone fixed it. The autumn air hit sharp and clean as I stepped outside. In my car, I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts. The Hawthorne Civic Museum director picked up on the third ring. Jennifer, it's Elena Brooks. About the chair sponsorship program for the new auditorium, I'd like to discuss a significant donation. Back in my apartment, I did what I do best, analyzed the system. Noah found me at 2:30 in the morning, surrounded by notebooks. My laptop open to spreadsheets. The coffee table covered in what looked like a corporate strategy session. Elena. He rubbed his eyes, his recording studio t-shirt rumpled from sleep. What is all this quality control? I said, adding another connection to my diagram. I'm mapping the family power structure. He sat beside me, studying my work. I'd charted it all: who got invited to what, who sat where, who made decisions, who got heard. The data revealed patterns as clear as any production failure I'd diagnosed at Novella Bio. Look, I pointed to the cluster analysis. Mom benefits from maintaining the hierarchy because it reinforces her position as gatekeeper. She controls access, which gives her power. Dad avoids conflict, so he enables the system by never challenging it. And Tessa. Tessa needs others below her to feel elevated. Noah finished. Classic insecurity response. Exactly. I pulled up another document. For 34 years, I've been the pressure release valve. When someone needs to feel important, they diminish me. When there's not enough room, I'm the one who gets cut. I make the system work by accepting my position outside of it. Noah studied the charts. So, what are you going to do? You can't force them to change. No, but I can change the playing field. I opened the Hawthorne Civic Museum website. They're launching their Founders Night Gala in 3 weeks. The museum's unveiling their new auditorium with a chair dedication program. Donors can sponsor seats with custom nameplates. Very public, very prestigious. And very much your mother's scene, Noah said, understanding immediately. She's been on their mailing list for years. Acts like she's a major patron even though she only goes to the free wine tastings. I pulled up my bank statement. But I actually volunteer there. I've been advising them on their archive digitization project for 2 years. Jennifer, the director, she knows me, trusts me. What are you thinking? I showed him the sponsorship levels. I'm going to sponsor 10 chairs, but not just any chairs, specific ones for specific people. Noah whistled low. That's a serious chunk of money. I've been saving for a house down payment, but honestly, this might be a better investment. I started a new list. Every family member who's been pushed to the margins. Aunt Linda, who they always seat in the back because her husband left. Cousin Marie, who gets overlooked because she's quiet. Uncle Robert, who's been relegated to the side table since his disability made Mom uncomfortable. Even the kids who get stuffed at separate tables so adults can have real conversation. You're going to give them all seats. Named seats. Engraved. Permanent. In a public space where the arrangement can't be changed based on someone's mood or social climbing agenda. Noah picked up my notebook, reading through the names. This is brilliant. But what about your parents? Tessa. I smiled. The kind of smile I'd learned from analyzing failed systems just before implementing solutions. They'll get exactly what they've always given me: conditional access. I pulled up the document I'd been drafting. The museum wants to make this meaningful, not just transactional. Jennifer mentioned creating a belonging initiative honoring people who make others feel included. I'm going to fund it, but with specific parameters, such as a public pledge. Anyone who wants a dedicated seat has to sign a commitment to inclusive community values. 3 simple points: respect others' places. Don't diminish others to elevate yourself. And apologize publicly if you've excluded someone. Your family would never, wouldn't they? I pulled up Mom's Facebook, full of posts about community and family values. Image is everything to them. When they're standing in a room full of Hawthorne's social elite, watching marginalized family members be honored with permanent seats while they're left standing. What do you think they'll choose, their pride or their reputation? Noah sat back, taking it all in. You're not just flipping the table, you're rebuilding the entire dining room. With better quality control, I started typing an email to Jennifer. The beauty is, I'm not excluding anyone. They can have seats, they just have to earn them the way I've had to earn everything. Through accommodation, through adaptation, through swallowing their pride and following someone else's rules for once. And if they don't, I thought about Tessa's sneer, Mom's casual dismissal, Dad's convenient blindness. Then they'll know exactly how it feels to stand on the outside, watching everyone else belong. The difference is, their exclusion will be their choice. Noah squeezed my shoulder. You know this will change everything. Everything's already broken, I said, hitting send on the email. At least this way, we document the failure properly, create accountability, implement corrective measures. My phone buzzed. Jennifer, despite the late hour, Elena, your email just came through. This is incredibly generous. Let's meet tomorrow to discuss details. The Belonging Initiative could be exactly what our Founders Night needs. I looked at my diagram one more time. All those years of being moved around like furniture had taught me something crucial. The person who arranges the chairs holds the power, and for the first time in 34 years, that person was going to be me. You're really going through with this, Noah said. Quality control isn't just about finding problems. I told him. It's about implementing solutions. And this problem, it's been in production way too long. The Hawthorne Civic Museum's conference room smelled like old paper and fresh coffee. Jennifer Martinez sat across from me, her eyes bright with excitement as I laid out the plan. Spreadsheets, seating charts, and architectural renderings covered the mahogany table between us. 10 chairs at the platinum sponsorship level, Jennifer repeated, calculator in hand. Elena, this is unprecedented. Most donors sponsor 1, maybe 2. I want to make a statement, I said, sliding her the list of names. Each chair will have a custom plaque with the person's name and a brief tribute. But here's the crucial part. I need the unveiling to be memorable. Jennifer studied the names. These are all your family members. The forgotten ones, the overflow table regulars, the ones who bring desserts nobody credits them for, who help set up but don't get seats, who have stories nobody asks to hear. And this belonging initiative you mentioned, I pulled out Noah's audio equipment catalog. My partner can handle the sound design. We'll create an audio installation recorded tributes playing as people find their seats. Nothing cruel or vindictive, just truth. Uncle Robert talking about watching his nephew's graduation from the back row because wheelchair access was complicated. Aunt Linda describing 5 Thanksgivings eating in the kitchen while helping cook. Jennifer's expression shifted from professional to personal. I stood at my own wedding reception once because the venue miscounted chairs. My husband's family took priority. Then you understand. I opened my laptop. The invitations go out under the museum's letterhead. The Brooks family will be honored as longtime community supporters, technically true, since I'm a Brooks and I've volunteered here for 2 years. Mention that several family members are being recognized with named seats for their contributions to making Hawthorne inclusive. Your parents will definitely come to that. Mom won't be able to resist. She'll post about it for weeks. I pulled up the seating chart for the auditorium. Here's where it gets interesting. The 10 sponsored chairs are in prime positions front row, center section, but I also want to reserve a section of standard seats in the middle rows. No names, just a sign, reserved for belonging initiative signatories. Jennifer leaned forward. And to sit there, they have to publicly sign the pledge, on stage, during the ceremony. I showed her the draft. 3 commitments: respect everyone's place, don't diminish others for personal gain, and apologize if you've excluded someone. Simple, reasonable, and completely at odds with how my family operates. What about general admission? Standing room along the walls, first come, first served, unless they sign the pledge. Jennifer laughed, surprising herself. It's brilliant. They either publicly commit to inclusion or literally stand on the margins. The optics alone will matter more to them than any private confrontation ever could. I handed her the timeline. 3 weeks to coordinate everything. Can we do it? With your funding, absolutely. She made notes rapidly. We'll need programs printed with the chair dedications, press releases, maybe alert the Hawthorne Gazette they love feel-good community stories. Especially ones that photograph well. I agreed. 10 newly honored family members in premium seats, emotional reunions, public commitments to belonging. It writes itself. Noah arrived then, carrying his recording bag. Sorry I'm late, traffic was brutal. Noah, perfect timing, Jennifer said. Elena was just explaining the audio component. He pulled out his tablet. I've already started collecting recordings. Elena's Aunt Linda sent me a beautiful piece about the time she organized an entire family reunion, but wasn't included in the family photo. Marie talked about bringing handmade gifts that get regifted because nobody remembers who made them. And Robert, Noah paused. Robert made me cry. 30 years of being told he's difficult to accommodate when all he needs is a ramp and a clear sight line. These will play during the dedication, Jennifer asked, softly, as ambient sound while people take their seats. Then, during the ceremony, we'll feature 1 or 2. Let their voices be heard in a space where they can't be interrupted or dismissed. I pulled out the draft invitation. Can we print these on the museum's formal letterhead? Jennifer read aloud. The Hawthorne Civic Museum cordially invites the Brooks family to Founders Night Gala, celebrating community leaders who create spaces of belonging. Several family members will be honored with permanent dedications in our new auditorium. It's perfect, she said. Vague enough to intrigue, specific enough to ensure attendance. There's one more thing. I placed a single sponsorship form on the table. 1 chair in the very front row, center seat. The plaque will read, reserved for Elena Brooks, who learned that belonging cannot be given or taken, only chosen. Jennifer's eyes met mine. Your mother will see that seat every time she walks past. If she walks past, she might be standing in the back. Noah started packing up his equipment. What about Tessa? She's going to lose her mind when she realizes what you've done. Tessa's going to have a choice, I said. Sign the pledge and sit with everyone else, or stand against the wall watching the relatives she's dismissed for years take the spotlight. Either way, she'll finally understand what it feels like to have your position determined by someone else's standards. Jennifer stood, extending her hand. Elena, I'm honored to be part of this. The museum needs more initiatives like this, turning personal pain into public progress. We shook on it. As Noah and I left, I felt the weight of what I'd set in motion. 3 weeks until Founders Night. 3 weeks until the Brooks family seating chart got permanently reorganized. You realize there's no going back after this, Noah said as we reached the parking lot. There was never any going back, I replied. The only choice was whether to stay furniture or become the architect. My phone buzzed. Mom, sending a group text about Thanksgiving planning. We'll need to figure out seating soon. You know how complicated it gets. I typed back. Actually, I think seating is about to get much simpler. Then I deleted it without sending. She'd find out soon enough. They all would. Founders' Night arrived wrapped in November cold and social expectations. The Hawthorne Civic Museum glowed like a jewel box, its new auditorium entrance flanked by spotlights that cut through the evening dark. I stood in the lobby watching the Brooks family arrive in clusters, their voices carrying that particular frequency of people who expect to be important. Mom swept in wearing winter white, a power move, since everyone else would be in fall colors. Dad followed in his navy suit, the one he wore to make statements. Tessa had chosen red, of course, her investment banker boyfriend trailing behind, checking his phone. "Oh my God," Tessa said, loud enough for the lobby to hear. "They have a step and repeat. How precious." But she posed anyway, pulling her boyfriend into frame. The museum had outdone themselves. Programs lined the entrance table. Thick cream paper with gold embossing. The cover read, "Founders' Night, celebrating those who create belonging." Inside, 10 names were listed with their chair dedications. Mom picked one up, scanning quickly. Her face shifted. Linda's name is in here, and Marie, and Robert. "Must be different people," Tessa said, not bothering to look. "Common names." But Dad was reading more carefully. "No, it says Robert Brooks, honored for 30 years of grace while navigating spaces that weren't built for him." Before anyone could respond, Jennifer appeared in a burgundy dress that meant business. "The Brooks family. We're so delighted you could come. Your seats are well. That depends. Are you here for the general admission or the belonging initiative?" Mom's social smile locked into place. "I'm sorry." "The what?" Jennifer gestured to a table where a museum volunteer sat with forms and pens. "The belonging initiative. Sponsors have created a special seating section for those who commit to our community inclusion pledge. It's quite moving. People are literally putting their names behind their values." A small crowd had gathered near the table, reading the pledge mounted on an easel. "I commit to respecting others' places and contributions, never diminishing others to elevate myself, publicly apologizing if I have excluded someone." "This is ridiculous," Tessa muttered. "Who makes people sign something just to sit down?" "Oh, you don't have to sign," Jennifer said pleasantly. "There's standing room along the walls. First come, first served. But the seated sections are for chair sponsors and pledge signatories only." Mom's eyes darted between the pledge and the program. "These sponsors, who are they?" One generous donor covered all 10 chairs. They wished to remain anonymous until the dedication. Jennifer checked her watch. "Which is starting in 15 minutes. Shall I show you to the standing section?" Standing. Mom's voice pitched higher. "We're the Brooks family. The invitation said we were being honored. Several members of your family are being honored." "Yes." "With permanent chairs?" "Very front row." Jennifer smiled. "The rest of you are welcome to participate in the belonging initiative if you'd like seats." I watched from behind a display case as the implications landed. Around us, other attendees were signing the pledge, receiving small cards that said "Belonging Initiative Participant" and being directed to the middle section good seats, respectable positions. Marcus had arrived with his wife, both looking confused. Diana clustered with them, whispering furiously. Other relatives trickled in, picking up programs, seeing their marginalized family members' names in print. "This has to be a mistake," Mom said, but her voice wavered. People were watching. The Petermans from her book club had just signed the pledge. The Davidsons from Dad's golf club were walking past with their participant cards. 5 minutes to ceremony, a volunteer announced. Tessa grabbed a program, reading the dedications more carefully. Listen to this Marie Brooks, whose handmade gifts brought beauty that went uncredited. What kind of passive-aggressive Tessa? Dad's voice was sharp. He'd noticed the photographers, the Hawthorne Gazette reporter with her notebook out. People are watching. The auditorium doors opened. The crowd began flowing in, and I moved with them, keeping to the edges. The front row gleamed with 10 brass nameplates, the middle section filled with pledge signatories. The walls remained empty, waiting. Mom stood frozen by the pledge table. Through the doorway, she could see Aunt Linda entering from the other direction, being escorted to her front row seat by a museum docent. Uncle Robert rolled in, his wheelchair directed to the accessible space marked with his name front and center, impossible to ignore. "I need to powder my nose," Mom announced, fleeing toward the restrooms, but there was no escape from the sound. Noah's audio installation had begun, soft voices floating through the speakers. Linda talking about bringing her famous pecan pie to every event but eating alone. Marie describing the Christmas ornaments she'd made that got credited to the family. Robert's deep voice recounting graduations watched from doorways, weddings attended but not really included in. Tessa's boyfriend looked uncomfortable. "Babe, maybe we should just sign the thing." "Are you kidding? It's manipulative. It's—" She stopped. The Gazette photographer was aiming their camera at the nearly empty standing section. Jennifer appeared at the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your places." The word hung in the air like a challenge. I found my position by the side door, where I could see everything. The front row of honored family members, some wiping their eyes. The middle section of people who'd chosen belonging over pride. And the walls, where my parents, Tessa, and a handful of others stood like figures in a painting titled "The Price of Exclusion." "Before we begin," Jennifer continued, "I want to note that our Belonging Initiative remains open. Anyone can still choose to sign and join our seated community, because here at the Hawthorne Civic Museum, we believe everyone deserves a place if they're willing to make space for others." Mom reappeared, her makeup perfect but her composure cracking. She looked at Dad. He looked at the standing room. Tessa crossed her arms, defiant. The entire auditorium waited. Jennifer's voice filled the auditorium with practiced warmth. "Tonight, we honor those who've built community through quiet grace, those who've contributed without recognition, who've made space for others even when space wasn't made for them." The lights dimmed except for spots on the front row. One by one, she called the names. Linda Brooks, whose generosity fed countless gatherings while she herself sat apart. Linda stood, tears streaming, as the audience applauded. Marie Brooks, whose artistry beautified family homes though her name was forgotten. Marie's hands shook as she waved. From my position, I could see Mom pressed against the wall, her white dress making her visible even in shadows. Dad stood rigid beside her, his jaw working the way it did during hostile board meetings. "Robert Brooks," Jennifer continued, "who navigated 3 decades of barriers with dignity and tact." The applause grew louder. Robert raised his hand, acknowledging the recognition he'd never received at family events. The Gazette photographer captured every moment the front row of previously invisible family members, the packed middle section of pledge signatories, and the sparse standing section where the important Brooks family members remained. "Now," Jennifer said, "we'd like to introduce our anonymous benefactor who made this possible, someone who understands that belonging isn't inherited or assigned, it's chosen and created." This was my cue. I walked to the podium, my heels clicking against the hardwood. Gasps rippled through the family sections. Tessa's "What the hell?" carried despite her boyfriend's attempt to shush her. "Good evening," I said into the microphone. "I'm Elena Brooks, and I sponsored these chairs." The silence felt alive, electric. I found Mom's eyes in the darkness wide, disbelieving. For 34 years, I've studied the architecture of exclusion, how a missing chair becomes a message, how overflow tables create hierarchies, how some voices get amplified while others eat in kitchens, stand in doorways, disappear into backgrounds. I clicked the remote Noah had given me. The screen behind me illuminated with a simple image and empty space at a beautifully set table. 2 months ago, at our family reunion, my chair was removed, not forgotten removed, to make room for someone deemed more valuable. My cousin said, "She doesn't belong here." I let Tessa's words hang in the air. She was right. I didn't belong in a system that treats people like furniture to be rearranged based on perceived worth. Another click. The screen showed the 10 front-row chairs, their nameplates gleaming. So I chose to build something different. Permanent seats for those who've been temporary fixtures. Recognition for those who've been relegated to margins. A new architecture where belonging requires only one thing: the willingness to ensure others belong too. Uncle Robert started clapping. Slowly, others joined. The middle section rose in a standing ovation. My parents remained frozen against the wall. "But here's what matters," I continued as the applause died down. "This isn't about punishment or revenge. Every person in this room can have a seat. The pledge isn't complicated: respect others' places. Don't diminish people for gain. Apologize when you've excluded someone. Basic human decency. Really." I looked directly at my mother. "The invitation remains open." Jennifer returned to the microphone. "We have time for one more audio tribute before our reception." Noah's installation began my voice this time, recorded last week. "I used to think belonging was something you earned through compliance, through making yourself small enough to fit wherever others placed you. But belonging isn't about fitting into someone else's arrangement. It's about creating spaces where everyone has a place, including yourself." Then came the part that made Mom flinch. "To my family still standing, your seats are waiting. They've always been here. You just have to choose them." The screen displayed the pledge one more time. Jennifer announced, "The Belonging Initiative table will remain open through the reception. And now, please join us for refreshments in the main gallery." People began filing out, but not before stopping to congratulate the front row honorees. Linda was surrounded by museum patrons wanting to hear her stories. Marie had attracted a group interested in her artwork. Robert was deep in conversation with the mayor's aide about accessibility initiatives. I stepped down from the podium to find Noah. He squeezed my hand. "You did it." "Elena," Mom's voice, right behind me. She looked smaller somehow, her white dress wilted. "How could you—" "The same way you could remove my chair," I said simply. "Deliberately, with planning. Except I included an option for restoration." Dad appeared, his face flushed. "This is humiliating. The Gazette is here. Our friends are watching you choose." I interrupted. "Just like you've watched me stand at overflow tables, eat in kitchens, disappear into backgrounds. The difference is, your standing is voluntary." Tessa pushed forward, her red dress like a flag of war. "You think you're so clever? This little stunt. It's not a stunt. It's quality control. I've identified the defect in our family system and implemented a solution. You can be part of that solution, or you can keep standing. Your choice." The Petermans walked by, chatting about how moving the ceremony was. Mrs. Davidson stopped to tell me, "Your speech was inspiring. We all need to examine how we make others feel excluded." Mom's social smile flickered on automatically, then died. The divide was visible now, those seated in community, and those who chose walls over accountability. Marcus broke from the standing section, approaching the pledge table. Diana followed. One by one, extended family members made their choice. But Mom, Dad, and Tessa remained fixed, watching their carefully constructed hierarchy collapse into a simple question: will you choose belonging, or will you choose pride? "The reception's starting," I said. "I hear they have assigned seating there too, based on when you signed the pledge. First come, first served." I walked away, leaving them standing in the emptying auditorium. 3 figures learning what it meant to be optional, overflow, unnecessary for the evening's success. Behind me, I heard footsteps, maybe approaching the pledge table, maybe heading for the exit. I didn't look back. The reception hummed with conversation and clinking glassware. I stood near the gallery's main installation, watching the room reorganize itself around new social physics. The pledge signatories clustered together, animated by shared purpose. The front row honorees held court, finally centered in their own stories. And by the entrance, my parents and Tessa remained, neither fully in nor fully out. Marcus found me first, his participant card visible in his jacket pocket. That was something. Elena, you signed? Diana, too. We're not idiots. The whole room saw what was happening. He paused. Mom's having a meltdown in the bathroom. And Dad's pretending to take an important call outside. Tessa's basically vibrating with rage. He accepted a glass of wine from a passing server. You know this changes everything, right? Before I could respond, Tessa materialized, her red dress like a warning flare. You manipulative bitch. Language, I said mildly. There's press here. You planned this whole thing to humiliate us. I planned this to honor people you've humiliated for years. You're experiencing consequences, not persecution. Her boyfriend appeared, looking deeply uncomfortable. Tessa, maybe we should just what sign their stupid pledge admit to something I didn't do. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to my notes. October 15th, she doesn't belong here. June 3rd, why does Elena even come? It's not like she adds anything. December 24th, can't she take a hint and stop showing up? Would you like me to continue? I have 3 years of documentation. The boyfriend's eyes widened. You said those things. Jennifer's voice carried over the crowd. Attention, everyone. The Belonging Initiative table will close in 10 minutes. Anyone still wishing to participate in seated community events going forward should sign before then. The phrase going forward landed like a grenade. This wasn't just about tonight. Mom emerged from wherever she'd been hiding, her makeup retouched but her composure shattered. Elena, we need to talk. We're talking now. Privately. Like all those private decisions about my seating. No, I think public is appropriate. Dad joined us, his phone call apparently finished. This is extortion. This is choice. I gestured to the pledge table. Same choice you've given me for years, conform or be cast out, except I'm offering better terms. You just have to acknowledge what you've done and commit to doing better. I haven't done anything, Mom protested. Robert rolled over, his new front row status giving him social weight he'd never had before. Marjorie, you told me I was too complicated to include in the family cruise. Peter, you suggested I'd be more comfortable watching your anniversary party on video instead of attending. Aunt Linda appeared at his side. You asked me to cater Marcus's engagement party, then forgot to set a place for me at dinner. Marie joined them. 5 years of my handmade Christmas ornaments, labeled from the Brooks family with my name nowhere. The circle was forming all the displaced, overlooked, minimized family members, creating a wall of truth around those who'd built their comfort on others' exclusion. We never meant Mom started. Intent doesn't erase impact, I said. You never meant to hurt anyone. You just meant to maintain a system where you mattered more. The Gazette reporter had drifted closer, her pen moving across her notepad. The photographer raised his camera. 5 minutes, Jennifer announced. Tessa's boyfriend pulled her aside, whispering urgently. She yanked away from him. I'm not apologizing for having standards. Standards, I repeated. Like removing someone's chair because an investment banker rates higher than a quality control manager. He flinched. She removed your chair for me. She didn't remove it, but she laughed when it was gone. She said I didn't belong. The boyfriend looked between us, then walked to the pledge table, signed, took his participant card, returned to stand with the seated section, leaving Tessa isolated. Brad, she called after him. He didn't turn. 3 minutes. Dad's business mind was calculating. I could see it in his eyes. The social cost of standing versus signing, the photographs that would circulate, the story that would be told. If we sign, he said slowly, this ends no more public demonstrations. If you sign and honor it, we become a family that makes space for everyone. That's all I've ever wanted. Mom looked around the room at her book club friends chatting with Aunt Linda, at the museum board members praising Robert's grace, at the growing divide between those who chose belonging and those clinging to old hierarchies. 1 minute. Marjorie, Dad said quietly. We should. I know, she whispered. They walked to the table together, their movement drawing every eye in the gallery. Mom's hand shook as she signed. Dad's signature was swift, decisive. The volunteer handed them their cards. Tessa, Mom called. Please. Everyone waited. The entire gallery had gone silent, watching one young woman wrestle with the distance between pride and belonging. Her isolation was complete, boyfriend gone. Parents surrendered, standing alone in her red dress like the last soldier in a war she'd already lost. 30 seconds. She strode to the table, grabbed the pen, scrawled her name so hard the paper tore slightly, snatched her card, refused to make eye contact with anyone. The Belonging Initiative is now closed for the evening, Jennifer announced. But the commitment continues. These cards grant access to all future museum events with community seating. Those without cards are always welcome in our standing sections. The room exhaled collectively. I felt Noah's hand find mine steady, grounding. Mom approached tentatively, her participant card clutched like a life raft. Elena, The reception has assigned seating, I interrupted. Based on sign-up order, you'll be at table 12. Table 12 was in the back corner, by the service entrance. I watched Mom's face as the volunteer directed them there, the same expression I'd worn at countless family gatherings. Finding myself at overflow tables, children's sections, kitchen counters. Dad pulled out her chair with mechanical courtesy. Tessa slumped into her seat, staring at her participant card like it might bite her. The front tables filled with tonight's honorees and early pledge signatories. Aunt Linda sat at table 1, surrounded by people eager to hear stories she'd never been asked to tell. Robert commanded table 2, finally at a height and position where he could see and be seen. Marie's table had attracted several local artists interested in her work, and at the center table, marked with a small placard reading "Reserved for Elena Brooks," my chair waited. I didn't sit immediately. Instead, I stood where they could see me. Mom, Dad, Tessa holding the same position they now occupied. The difference was choice. I could sit whenever I wanted. They were learning what it meant to earn their place. Jennifer approached the microphone one last time. Before we conclude, our benefactor would like to share one final thought. I walked to the podium, carrying the weight of 34 years but feeling lighter with each step. Growing up, my father once told me my chair could go anywhere. He meant I was easy to move, convenient to displace. Tonight, he was right. My chair can go anywhere, because I put it there, because I decided where I belong. I looked at table 12. For those who signed the pledge tonight, this is the beginning. You've committed to 3 simple principles. Honor them, and every seat is available. Break them, and you'll find yourself standing again. The system is transparent now. No more hidden hierarchies, no more invisible exclusions. Mom was crying silent, careful tears that didn't disturb her makeup. Dad stared at his water glass. Tessa had turned away, but her shoulders trembled. But here's what matters most, I continued. This isn't about punishment. It's about possibility. Every person who signed tonight chose to be part of something better, a family where Linda's stories matter as much as anyone's, where Robert's presence isn't complicated, it's essential, where Marie's gifts carry her name, where everyone has a seat at the table and no one eats alone in the kitchen. I paused, finding Noah in the crowd. He nodded. Go on. Mom, Dad, Tessa, you signed. That means you're willing to try. I'm willing to meet you there, but understand the days of musical chairs are over. The hierarchy has been flattened. Your seat at future tables depends entirely on how you treat others at this one. The museum's clock tower chimed 9 times. The sound carried through the gallery like a bell tolling the end of an era. 34 years ago, I was born into a family that taught me belonging was conditional, that love could be withdrawn, that worth was determined by seating charts. Tonight, I'm choosing a different family, one that includes everyone who signed that pledge, everyone who believes belonging is a human right, not a privilege to be granted or revoked. I stepped down from the podium and walked to my reserved seat at the center table. The nameplate caught the light. Elena Brooks, who learned that belonging cannot be given or taken, only chosen. As I sat, the gallery erupted in applause. Not for me, for the principal. For the 10 people in the front row who'd been invisible for decades. For everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. For the radical idea that families could change, that systems could be rebuilt, that the architecture of exclusion could be demolished and replaced with something more beautiful. From table 12, I heard a chair scrape. Mom stood, unsteady, her participant card in her hand. She walked toward me, not to my table, which was full, but near enough to be heard. "I'm sorry," she said, loud enough for the gallery to hear. "I'm sorry for every chair I let disappear, every seat I didn't save, every time I chose comfort over courage. It wasn't enough. Not nearly. But it was the beginning. Dad stood next. I'm sorry for looking away, for enabling a system I knew was wrong." Tessa remained seated, but her voice carried, "I'm sorry for saying you didn't belong. I was wrong." The words hung in the air like a contract signed, a commitment made, a door opening after being locked for 34 years. Jennifer announced the evening's end. People began departing, stopping to congratulate the honorees, to thank me for the sponsorship, to share their own stories of exclusion and belonging. The Gazette photographer captured the final image 3 generations of Brooks family members, some at premier tables, others in back corners, all navigating the same new reality that belonging wasn't inherited or assigned, but chosen, one signature at a time. As the gallery emptied, Noah helped me gather my things. "So what now? Now we see if they honor the pledge. Thanksgiving is in 2 weeks. And if they don't..." I looked at the museum's permanent seating chart, at the 10 chairs that would forever carry the names of those who'd been pushed aside. Then they'll stand, and everyone will know why. We walked out together, leaving table 12 to bust their own dishes, another first in Brooks family history. The November air bit sharp and clean. Behind us, the museum lights dimmed one by one, but the nameplates on those chairs would gleam forever, catching whatever light found them. The door closed with a solid click, not an ending, but a punctuation mark. The sentence had been written, the judgment delivered, the chairs finally, permanently, assigned. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Thanksgiving will be different this year." I typed back, "Yes, it will." Then I deleted their contact. They knew where to find me at the table, in a chair with my name on it, permanent and immovable. If they wanted to join me there, they knew exactly what they had to do. The belonging pledge was public record now. All they had to do was honor it. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Please share in the comments below so we can connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever felt excluded from your own family table? How did you reclaim your belonging? Let's discuss in the comments.